go. All right, we're recording now. Do not need to turn your video off. You're not visible. Does that answer your question? Okay, cool. All right, everyone. So welcome. Tonight, the topic of our conversation is really making time for self-care. One of my favorite topics, but I'm a nerd about self-care. And tonight I'm really excited because tonight kicks off a 10-month program that will take, it's actually a practice for me. I'm going to be practicing teaching for the next 10 months. It's a parallel process. But the other thing that's happening is participants can carry through for 10 months working on all kinds of different self-care habits, mainly around eating intuitively and doing fitness that feels good and caring for the body in that way, repairing our body image, and having the sex that we want. So pretty much the most personal topics, pretty much as personal as it gets. So tonight is our first event. This actually kicks that whole thing off, and so I'm really excited about that. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for investing in yourself in this way. It's super important, and it helps everyone that you touch in life. So thank you. Tonight, the first thing that I want to do before we get started is give you all an opportunity to do whatever you need to do to be comfortable during this time. So if there's anything you forgot to do, even if you have to leave the room to go get it, do that now. If you need water, if you need something, you needed to go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do that now. And I will literally pause while you do that, because one of the things that we're going to be talking about is that we want to make our self-care practices pleasant. And if we start them or do them uncomfortably, that's going to harm the process. So if there's anything that you need to do that now, and let me know if you're doing that. If you're not, if you need to chat it to me. Very important. Make sure you're comfortable to sit. We're going to take a break in the middle, but make sure you're comfortable to sit for this time. All right, everyone's here. So tonight we're going to be talking about kind of the basics of self-care. We're going to literally talk about what is self-care. And each of you is going to have a little bit of a different spin on that. And that does not matter. That's perfect. Everybody has a different concept of what is self-care to you, what is helpful to you, what you're needing, what nourishes you. And so we're going to take a look at what those are for you. Take a good close look. We're going to look at kind of the mechanics of what works and what doesn't. We'll talk about the psychology of self-care, the psychology of how we motivate ourselves. And we'll look at it like it's a relationship. I look at it like it's a relationship between parts of ourselves. And so I'll talk about why it's difficult, the psychological elements of why we make it difficult and why things end up not sticking over time. And I'll talk about how to make it more pleasant, so that we build sustainable practices that last over time. How to make it more pleasant. It's simple, but it's actually one of the most important things. We overlook it all the time. But making it pleasant, making it comfortable, making it something we're going to want to come back to over and over again is really important. So, and one of the things I want to say, if there's anything you have questions about as this goes on, just chat me, and I'll be checking it the whole time. So, and then just to give you an idea of kind of where we're going from here with the Thrive program, this piece, this really making time for self-care is the first mini program within the program. It's a 2-month program From here, in a couple weeks, we're going to have a workshop that's going to go deeper into this. You have an opportunity to see me one-on-one if you choose, and some of you already do. And then we're going to talk, we're going to do a support group 2 weeks after that. So that it's like every 2 weeks during this 2 months, there's an opportunity to get connected, to learn more, to get support, to ask questions, to talk about what's happening for you, where you get stuck, what's just putting attention on this whole phenomenon of self-care for you. I'm going to pull up real quick where we're going. This is the Thrive program. And we're starting here, really making time for yourself, for self-care, February, March. When we get into April, May, we're going to talk about how to love fitness. That's the greatest. How to heal trauma that we have around fitness. In June and July, we're going to go on to talk about how to feel good in your body. And this is all about body image, how to feel good in the body that you were given. Illnesses, ailments, shape, size, and all. August and September, we're going to talk about eating intuitively, and that essentially means eating what your body wants, when your body wants it, how your body wants it. Learning how to listen in that way. And then October and November, we're going to be talking about having nourishing sex, having the sex that you want. And this is a form of nourishment that most of us pass over and think of it as not necessary or not as important as it actually is. So that's the plan. That's where we're going from here. Just want to give you a little heads up on how that's going to work. All right. So self-care. I have a prompting screen up here that I'm looking at, so I'm on point. So I don't miss anything. Make sure I'm doing what I plan to be doing. So the whole idea of this program is about building sustainable practices, which means that we slowly build them. We build them slowly. And this goes against what we've learned, what we've learned about how to get things done. We've learned a model of, I think the word that I would use is transformation. We've learned a model of transformation that has us seeking immediate gratification around our habits, right? And so this program is about building slow, lasting practices. I am not offering transformation. I don't believe that transformation works on the real stuck spots, and self-care is a stuck spot for a lot of people. Pretty much anyone who's coming here, they're stuck in building self-care habits. So the goal here is to slowly build practices that have you feel good about yourself, have you feel well. Okay, it's not about transformation. If you notice yourself getting into the transformation mode, where you're starting to think about how you're going to get this thing to go, and it's going to end up being this big thing that creates fast changes, you're in transformation mode. And so bring yourself back, try to bring yourself back to this location where you're right here, right now. This is where you are with your practices. This is how your body feels. This is how often you're able to exercise, meditate, whatever it is. This is where you are now. And from there, we'll incrementally, slowly move up to where we're feeling well, where we're feeling like, okay, I'm happy with my practices. They're nourishing me. I'm feeling whole. I'm feeling healthy. That's the goal. But we don't get there. I know this personally and professionally, working with a lot of people. We don't get there overnight. That's why this program lasts for 10 months. And that's why this mini program lasts for 2 months. So these are long-term shifts. So I want you to be in that mind frame that if it shifts fast, it shifts back fast. And I'll talk more about that later. If we pick it up fast, we're going to drop it fast. So I want us to kind of get started doing something active, and that's going to be writing. So right here, we're going to spend a few minutes writing. You're going to write your self-care habits, the things that you know nourish you or would nourish you. And in a second, I'm going to pop up my list of my favorite things. Those are just my favorite things. They are not necessarily your things. These are my things. Everyone has to have their own things. So don't think of it as like the right way. Once we start getting into that mindset of like, there's a right way and there's a wrong way and I got to do it the right way, that messes with things too. So we're going to take 5 minutes, 5 solid minutes, and you're going to use a sheet of paper. And this sheet of paper, keep it clean with just this on it, because you're going to use this as a guide. It's going to be your list. It's like your go-to list of self-care practices that are important to you. And you'll keep adding to it. But for now, we're going to start it. So I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. And for 5 minutes, you're gonna make a list, and you can make it, just list it down. You can put them all over, spread them all over the paper, make it however you want it, have it look the way that you want it for it to look. And if you want not a guide, but if you want an example, I'm about to bring one up on the screen here. There's some examples. All right, so start in 5 minutes now. These are practices that make you feel whole, healthy, well taken care of, happy. have about a minute and a half left. Think about all the areas of your life, your body, your mind, your relationships, spirituality. All right, that's time to go ahead and wrap up. And then throw me a few chats. Chat me the ones that are maybe a couple or a few of the ones that are most important to you, that you feel are kind of the most foundational. For me, mine would be something like probably yoga, hiking outside, that sort of thing. Like those are some of my those are the things that if I can't do, I feel it pretty quickly. So what are the things for you? Chat me and we can give each other ideas with this. Real conversation with your spouse. Napping. Oh, that's a good one. I'm horrible at napping. Ooh, lounging time with the cats. Nighttime meditation. Naps too. Clean your room. Exercise when and how you want it. These feel good. If there's any more thrown my way. Morning routine. Get up at 5:30 and read, study, write, exercise, and then leave for work at 9. Yeah. Nice. All right. So if you got any ideas from each other, there you go. I want to make a shift. I also want to say keep that piece of paper, put it on your refrigerator or your wallet, or have it be somewhere where you can both refer to it. If you want to set an intention to really work on these, put it in a place where you can refer to it and either get ideas from it, right? Sometimes we have some time and we're trying to figure out, what do I need? I need something. I know there's something that I could do, but sometimes we need a menu, right? We need some kind of a menu to order off of instead of trying to figure it out in the moment. And so if you have this menu somewhere, you can take a look at it. I think the fridge can be a good place for it. But you could take a picture of it and put it in your phone if you want to. Whatever's good for you, and then have it be so that you can add to it and you get new ideas. So I want to shift a little bit to talk about the difficulties, where we get stuck. And we're going to spend the bulk of the time tonight on this, so we can figure some things out. We can get some ideas, identify some things that we maybe haven't been able to identify before. So my question to you guys is, where do you get stuck? And when I say that, what's difficult? Like, which of these self-care practices are the most difficult to get yourself to do regularly? It's like, oh man, I can't, for me, I can't nap. I can't nap. I know that I want to, I know that I need to sometimes, but for God's sake, I just can't do it. And it's a problem sometimes. So that piece, I'm stuck, right? So where for you, which one of these, you can do one, you can do more than one, and chat me, where are you stuck? What's difficult? What's this really sticky practice that you want to get more consistent on, but that for whatever reason, and we'll get more into that, for whatever reason, it's difficult to do. So far we have yoga. Exercise goes out the window when work or school get busy. Massage. Touch, yeah. Motivation to exercise and the willpower. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. That gives me an idea. So, movement and exercise seems to be it's our next topic in Thrive too. So that's perfect. But exercise and movement seem to be, especially in today's world, really difficult to do, really easy to ignore, unless we really have troubles with it, and then we start to put more attention on it. But in the meantime, when there's just a small or moderate issue, we're really, really good at ignoring that. So, the first thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to ask you to chat for now, but the first thing that I want for us to look at is what we do instead. And somebody already answered this question and said work/school. So good to know. What else do you do instead of self-care? What is, like, you have some time, but you decide to do this instead of deciding to go out for a walk. What gets prioritized above self-care? For me, it's work. Can always find something to do. Sleep and TV, those are very popular ones. Work, TV time. Home to-dos, reading. Yes. Good. So these are for you to remember and to notice. These are your, you could call them distractions. You could call them off-kilter priorities. But these are the things that you know about what you might be doing instead of what would actually be nourishing to you. So, I'm going to put up a little, this is homemade and I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of it. I just want to say that before I share it with you all. There's a saying, oh, before I do that, there's a saying, and I've heard it in a couple different places, but the saying is that self-esteem is built on esteemable acts. And so the idea of this is that we feel good about ourselves if we're doing good things. And part of that is doing good things for the world, doing good things for other people. Absolutely. But a major component of that is doing good things for ourselves that are feeding back into the system. We have to come, especially as a therapist, I know I got to figure this out pretty early. You have to be full. You have to have fed yourself before you can feed others. Or you have to put on that oxygen mask before you put it on anyone else. And so I want to hone in on that component of self-esteem. It's very important. No matter what we're doing for the world, no matter what we're doing for other people and for our relationships, if we're not doing for ourselves, we will be lacking in self-esteem. There's a component of self-esteem that is empty or negative. So that being said, I'm going to show you my homemade worksheet here. Look at it, it's like football. Okay. So self-esteem is built on esteemable acts. And what this means on the top left here is that when we do positive acts, when we do positive things, and again, we're looking at ourselves. So when we do these self-care things or whatever it is we are needing, we attend to ourselves and do the things that we need, we gain a positive belief about ourselves. We do a good thing, that creates a sense of positivity about ourselves. And then that has us more likely to do the next positive thing for ourselves. This works in a cycle. It feeds itself. And it works both ways. So over on the right, you see that when we do negative acts, right, we go without moving our body for a period of time. We choose work over sleep. We choose TV over whatever it is that we need for ourselves. We develop negative beliefs about ourselves. And this is mainly unconscious. You could say, maybe one would say, I'm not taking good care of myself. But really, what's going on deep down inside is that we have unconscious negative beliefs about ourselves. Just like we would with a parent who's not paying attention to us. If we had a parent who didn't pay the right kind of attention to us, they didn't feed us the right type of food, they didn't give us the right types of resources, on some level, we developed a negative belief about them. They don't take care of me. They're not good to me. And we're doing this in our own systems each day as we navigate through these decisions. So this thing goes into a spiral. These circular motions that are happening up there they go into a spiral, right? And when we go up the spiral, this is the positive acts direction. When we go down this spiral, these are the negative acts. And chat me if you have questions as we're doing this. So, at the top of this spiral, we're looking at a sense of physical wellness, high self-esteem. We're in a state of doing many positive practices and behaviors, and we're fully engaged. We're expanded. Notice how the spiral is wide at the top. We're expanded. We're able to do a lot. We can get a lot of things into our day. And it feels good. We have the energy for it. Oh, yes. To answer this question that just came up, all of these documents that I'm going to be sharing today, I will share with you. I'll email to you. I don't know if it'll come with the recording and maybe separately, but you will get everything that you see today. Yes. So as we go down to the bottom of this spiral, right, and many of us have been in both places, depending on the times in our lives, we get down to the bottom of the spiral, we have a low self-esteem, we may have physical illness at that point, or physically we feel bad. We have negative behaviors, right? There's maybe like a lot of TV watching. There's not much getting out of the house. Maybe really overworking or in a state of high stress. And then this here, it's these small little circles. We're in a state of contraction. We're not doing much. We're probably avoiding a lot of things. There's a lot of lethargy and listlessness, low energy down here. And this could be because we're sick, right? This could happen because there are a lot of people who get knocked down by the flu this time of year. And we kind of go into this state periodically or temporarily when something happens to us. So this can happen. And here on the right, there's this orange arrow, these two-way arrows, and it's saying we can go up and down. We go up and down this, right? So as we do positive things, we move upward. As we do negative things, we move downward. And so we can do that movement fast, like a yo-yo, right? And I've seen many people, it's like, I'm going to boot camp, and they do like the boot camp on the lawn, and they do it like 5 times a week, and they're in so much pain, but they've lost like 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I'm doing my food prep too, right? So it's like this huge, enormous change, right? It's a big, fast move up the spiral, boom, up to the top, right? And so the other way, and this is more the way that we're talking about in this program, is a slow, sustained, patient movement upwards. Because the faster we climb up, the faster we're going to come back down. And this is not necessarily bad news. It's okay if we fall, especially if we have sustained practices. I wrote a blog on the new year because it was a time for me that was really contracted. Right around the holiday season, it's like the days are so short and it's cold outside and all the schedules are thrown off and everything's out of whack. And that's a time where I tend to fall out of my practices. And so if you have sustained long-term practices and you go down on that spiral, you come back up more quickly with more buoyancy. It's okay. It's okay to go down. That's okay. If we have built a foundation for ourselves, we'll come back up. Questions? I'm going to finish that worksheet in a second, but it's a lot to digest. So any questions? Okay, cool. We'll go back to it. So on the left side here, this is another important dimension of what's going on here. The quality of this ride along this spiral, the quality of it is determined by the internal dialogue that we're happening throughout the whole process. The planning of it, the preparing for it, the actually doing it, the way we feel while we're doing it, when we decide to stop and how we feel after it, all that whole arc, that whole process. The internal dialogue that's happening inside of us is so, so important. And if it's a conversation that's filled with criticism, judgment, anger, impatience, frustration, that's one of the main reasons why we don't want to do these things. Of course not. It's like if you were growing up and your parents had you cleaning, but they were nitpicking you and getting on your case the whole time, you probably gained a negative relationship, both with them and with cleaning. So this is an important facet of this situation that we want to put attention on. How are we talking to ourselves? What does the internal dialogue look like, sound like? And going, just highlighting this specific thing, because I feel like a lot of people struggle in this spot. How do you treat yourself in effort to get motivated? How do you motivate yourself? What does that sound like? A lot of us don't know exactly what it sounds like until we really start paying attention. And it probably sounds something like parents or coaches, teachers maybe, the way that they talk to us and the way that that got imprinted as, well, this is how we get it done. This is how we do it. This is how we get ourselves to do it. So how do you treat yourself to keep going? Right? Say you're on the yoga mat, right? And you're in a pose. Warrior 2 is the most challenging pose for me. You're in a pose and you're deciding how to keep going. You either stay in the pose or you come out of it or you go down to child's pose. How does that whole conversation sound? When you go down in child's pose, do you call yourself a failure or an embarrassment? That's important. When you're in that pose and you're shaking, do you have someone meanly telling you stay in, stay in, stay in, right? What does that sound like? What is the conversation inside you like? What happens when you slow down? You know? Questions or comments? Or protests? No protests, darn it. Okay, so we're about 45 minutes in. We're about half the way in. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to take a break. And you do what you want to do. Go to the bathroom, take a drink, do whatever you do. And we'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. I'm going to get some more water. All right. So we're going to reconvene, and first thing I want to do is have some mindful silent time, meditation, in other words. I just delivered kind of a lot of information, and our system needs a little digestion time when we do that. So I'm going to kind of lead us in a guided meditation. So feel free, you can mute your video if you want. You definitely don't have to. But we're going to go for about 5 minutes or so in this one. And I'm going to have you sit in a position where you feel upright and well supported. And close your eyes. And rest your hands in your lap. And you can put your palms up in the air if you'd like. This welcomes in what's happening in your environment around you. If you're feeling open to that, palms up can help you feel more at one with that. And palms down, if you want to put your palms down on your lap, feel free to do that too. This is good when we just want to reflect and be in ourselves. Either way, different purposes. And let in a few deep breaths where you really let your lower abdomen go and relax and open and expand. And take a moment to notice your body, just like a copier scans a piece of paper. Scan all the way from the crown of your head down. Over your head, shoulders. Notice any tension, pain, other sensations on your chest and your rib cage, down your arms. Down your back. And through your hips, where your body makes an angle. Down your legs. Down your calves. And in your feet on the floor. And then take your attention back to the place where you're feeling the most sensation, and it may be pain or tension or discomfort. And really hold your attention there. Notice what's happening there. Maybe you feel heat or pressure or texture or movement. Whatever you feel, just notice it. Ask it what it needs. You really make a note of that. These loud sensations are messages from our body telling us to do something or don't do something. Now returning to your breathing, taking some more deep breaths, letting your abdomen expand, especially when you inhale. And take a moment to just acknowledge everything your body is doing. All the nerves that are firing, the nerves that are firing in your brain that have you be able to think in all kinds of sophisticated ways. The nerves in your body that have you feel all the sensations. Your heart beating thousands and thousands and thousands of times, somehow without fail. Your digestive system doing magic, sustaining you. Your whole skeleton holding you together, keeping you strong, making your form, your muscles, moving you around. So take a moment to thank your body for all it does, whether you're treating it well or not. And take a moment to thank yourself for showing up here tonight, for engaging, for investing in you. Take one more deep breath. Before you open your eyes, just gently move your fingers and toes. And ever so slowly open your eyes back up. Let the light in gently. So that was a nice moment of stillness. It's a good practice, especially for those of us. It feels like this is a pretty active group, doing a lot of things, keeping pretty busy. Moments of stillness like that can be really helpful. Only took a few minutes. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into sorry for the beeping. We're going to go a little deeper into both this kind of cycle of the behaviors that we don't want, or not doing the behaviors that we do want. And then we're going to look at the cycle of doing things the way that has us want to come back to these practices. Please, please, please throw up chat me if you have any questions at all during this, any comments, anything you want me to talk about. As we talk about this, please chime in so I'm informed on what's happening on your end. So we talked about how esteemable acts sort of take us to higher self-esteem, right? We do things that have us feel good, and then we feel better, and then we're more likely to do the next thing that has us feel good, feel better, up, up, up. And so when we do the down, 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 we're going to focus on the down, 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 right? And the up. So the up can be our motivation to go up can be inspiration, right? We're excited about something, we're motivated about something inspired us, somebody wants to do this with us, it feels good, or that's inspiration, or it could be a sense of desperation, right? So desperation also moves us. If we're in a state of desperation, we have different motivations, we feel differently, we're probably starting lower down, or maybe starting lower down on that spiral. And so, and we may be in a state that's real contracted, like we're not doing a whole lot, and that's okay. We can start from wherever we are here. So I want to talk about what the cycle kind of looks like and get into the psychology of this. I'm going to go to another screen here, if I can find it. I think it is, sorry. I'm going to go to a screen. It's not going to be quite right yet, but I'll get us there. There we go. So this is the cycle that many of us get in, or that we get in with certain behaviors. And this is the behavior that you wrote down, that you chatted to me, that you do instead. So it's like the work or school, the not doing, the fitness, the TV, whatever it is, like the going to reading instead. It's something that we've deemed a negative behavior, right? So it's either something that we don't want to do, that we're doing anyway, or it's something that we do want to do that we're avoiding, we're not doing it. So in this wheel, it starts on the left side here with a negative behavior. And it goes really quickly into shame, right? So this is how most of us navigate through this. We do something that we don't want to do, that we wish we didn't do, or we don't do something that we wish we did. And then the next thing that happens is we feel a sense of shame. And so the reason this is called the wheel of reactivity is because it keeps going cyclically. It goes in a circular motion. And there's not a whole lot of awareness in it. Because as soon as we hit shame, we lose our sense of awareness. We just do. We go unconscious. So I want us to really heavily focus on this word shame. Because what happens afterwards is we go into one of these states, either denial, blame, or justification, right? We're either not going to look at it, we're going to blame someone else, maybe ourselves, or we're going to defend ourselves through justification, right? So this is the cycle that many of us are in, or that we're all in with something. We are all in this cycle with something in our lives. So the problem right here is that once we go into shame, none of those reactions afterward are going to help us improve this. They're going to take our attention away from it and put our attention on trying to ease the pain of the shame. So from there, from either denial, blame, or justification, we develop some kind of a negative philosophy. And it may just be, I hate this, or I suck at this, or maybe I don't want to do this, or the reason that I do this is because of this thing that's not actually the thing. Or the reason I don't do this is because whatever thing that's not really the thing. It's a negative philosophy that doesn't serve us. And the next thing that happens after that is we start feeling fear. Why? Because we shamed ourselves. Because we went into shame. And whenever we have a shame reaction to doing something or not doing something, we hurt ourselves. And when we hurt ourselves, we become afraid of ourselves. Of course. We become afraid of anyone who shames us. Because it's a powerful weapon. It's a hurtful weapon. It goes straight to the core of us, straight to our soul, and it hurts us. So from there, we're not going to be super conscious. We go into a state that here they call it reactivity. I will call it unconsciousness or lack of awareness. And we go right back into that negative behavior. Questions, comments, resonating, anything resonating for anybody? Excuse me. So, everything's resonating. Okay, that's good that we're on the right page. Been in this cycle all week. Good to know. Yes, never thought about how powerful shame can be. Yeah, I think a lot of us actually feel shame, and we don't realize that we're feeling shame. It feels natural to us. This is how I react when I don't work out. Yeah. It's good to know. And many of us have this response. We all have it somewhere, but many of us have this response to these self-care things. So if we're going to put our attention on one thing, which I highly recommend doing, put your attention on one thing, it's the shame. You put your attention on the shame and how to ease it and how to prevent it, how to stop doing that. And in order to do that, you have to know what prompts it, right? Maybe it's not doing your workout. Maybe it's choosing Burger King instead of Snap. Maybe it's going to work, like doing your work on your laptop instead of spending time with your kids. Whatever it is, What makes you feel good that you avoid? Or what makes you feel bad that you do? Right? So this shame is deep, deep, deep work. And one of the things that you can do is journal. One of the things that you can do, and when I say journal, I mean literally like write out the shamefulness and then advocate for yourself. Like actually argue with yourself. We're human beings. We have amazing capabilities. Amazing capabilities. We can actually argue with ourselves. So there's a part of ourselves that's like, you're lazy. You didn't do this. You're never going to do this. You're going to fall out of this habit. Why do you do this? Why are you like this? You suck at this. You're totally lazy. I hate that word lazy. You're totally lazy. Right? So there's that part of you. And so the amazing thing about human beings is we can actually build an advocate. We can reparent ourselves. This is, I call it the loving parent, because I learned a lot from the Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families program. The loving parent is a coach. It's an encouraging, loving, positive coach. And so this one can advocate and speak differently to you than this one. It can argue this one. It can take this one's power away. So when I say you can journal, I mean you can literally write out these two things, these two parts of you. The one that's mean, the one that's shaming you and why, and the one that has something different to say, the one that's actually encouraging. And I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to talk about the healthy cycle, and I'll build on that. The other thing that I highly recommend is therapy. So, or seeing someone, a coach or someone individually. So, because therapists are really sensitive to that. So when you're talking to a therapist and you're like, la, 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 and then you mention this thing that feels shaming, they will pick up on it. They will pick up on that. And they will hone in on that, and they will help you out of that, because that's one thing the therapists do. They help you feel better, and they're going to be sensitive to where you're hurting that way. Another thing you can do that I highly, highly recommend is read this book that I'm going to put up. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection, or really anything by Brene Brown. Let me find it. It's going to take me a second to get it up because it's my internet. This is the book. It's by Brene Brown. And there are a lot of people who write about shame. In my opinion, Brene Brown is the best author that I have read. She's one of the few writers about shame. She also researches shame, so she can tell you all the different facets of it and how it works for people and doesn't work for people. She essentially believes that shame is inherently an unhealthy emotion. There are some people who believe that there's healthy shame, and I'm not one of those people, and Brene Brown is not one of those people. Guilt is an emotion that helps us stay in line and act ethically. Shame does not. In fact, shame can make behaviors even worse. So if we do a bad thing to someone and someone shames us, if we have a certain sensibility, we're going to actually be more likely after being shamed to do that hurtful thing to someone else again. So in my opinion, and in many other professionals' opinions, there's not a healthy function for shame. It's just unhelpful. And when we feel it, it's important to do something about it, because it gets us into all kinds of trouble. So shame, honing in on the shame and becoming sensitive to when you feel it. And when you feel it, working on unfeeling it, getting out of it, building an advocate inside of you that will bring you some compassion and comfort and kindness. So take a moment to think about, just so we can bookmark this emotion, take a moment and think about when a recent time was when you felt shame. And you don't have to say it here. You can if you want. But think about that, a time when you felt shame, so that you can kind of revisit it and feel it in your system and remind yourself what it feels like. It's pretty icky, right? Shame is one of the ickiest feelings that there is to feel. And it really, when people put it to words, what it is, it's essentially feeling like you're a bad person. And the question just came up, how do I separate shame and guilt? And it's a good question. You don't need to separate them. They're already going to be separated for you. But I will tell you the difference between the two so you know when you're in one or the other. Guilt is, by definition, these are, again, words that are put to say what they are. Guilt is knowing that you did a bad thing. Knowing that you did something that you don't want to do or that was hurtful or destructive. Guilt is you did something you wish you hadn't done. You made a mistake. Shame, on the other hand, is feeling a sense of worthlessness or a devalued sense of self. And it might be because you did something or didn't do something, but it's a sense of, I am bad. I'm a bad person. I have some element of unworthiness. There are good people out there. This person, that person, they're good. They're good. I'm not good. I'm a bad person. And it may just be in this way, but it's like there's something inherently bad about me. Does it make a little bit more sense? And it's in the difference. Okay, good. The difference is the feel. Guilt is like, okay, and we're going to talk about the mechanics of this in a second. Guilt is like, okay, what did I do? And how did that happen? And how do I not do that again? It's pretty simple. Shame, on the other hand, it's just like icky, murky, don't want to touch that. I don't want to look at that. Again, denial, justification, and what's the third one? Denial, blame, and justification. Those are the three things that we're going to go into because we just don't want to go there. We don't want to feel that. It feels horrible. So shame's icky. So that being said, we're going to talk about some of the last things we're going to talk about before we start wrapping up. Just one more piece of content. This is another homemade worksheet I'm really proud of. This is the wheel, I call it the wheel of integration. And it's essentially, this is more like guilt. This is being fair and kind with ourselves. And I want to make it really clear that we don't just go from not having good practices to having good practices and it's just that easy. No, we continue doing what we're doing for a while and then we learn from it. But this is the ideal cycle that goes through. And again, it starts on the left there with a negative behavior. This doesn't just change, we don't just change it. So instead here, what happens when we don't go into shame? We do something that we don't want to do, or we don't do something that we do want to do. And from there, we realize, oops, I didn't do that. I said I was going to go out for a walk, and I didn't. I watched Netflix instead. So, but from there, we go into reflection. What happened? Why did I make that decision? What was going on for me? Was I thinking about I wanted to spend more time with my spouse? They were putting pressure on me. Was I feeling pressure from work? Like, what was happening? There's always a reason. What was happening? Why did I do that or not do that? And this is putting attention on the dynamic that's going on with you. From there, we identify some adjustments. Okay, I need to carve out time, set a reminder on my phone, set a buzzer, have an accountability buddy, whatever it is, identify adjustments to do it differently. Carve out time after work. Make sure that you walk while you're go for walks while you're at work or at school. Figure out how to do it differently, to try it differently. This isn't going to be the fix. This isn't going to be like the amazing fix that fixes everything. It's just we did a negative behavior, we reflected on it, not beating ourselves over the head with it because we're not in shame. We reflected on it, and then we identify some adjustments. That didn't work. How do I want to try it tomorrow? And then you set an intentional plan for your next attempt. This is so simple, but we don't do this. We don't focus on what we can control. These are all the things we can control. And then from there, once we set that intentional plan for our next attempt, maybe we end up doing what we hope to do. Maybe we don't. Either way, fine. Either way, if we keep on this cycle, we will end up going toward that desired behavior. And it's a practice, which means we don't do it perfectly. We don't do anything perfectly. I don't care what any of these self-help gurus say. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's enlightened 24/7 all the time. We're all in practices, which means sometimes we make it to the yoga mat and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we choose work and sometimes we choose health, right? So I really want to drive home. I want to repeat it. A reflection here. The difference is that the shame cycle doesn't offer a way out. Yeah, that's true. The shame cycle does not. It doesn't tend to. It's, again, if we look at that spiral, it's going to take us down, at least in that area, until we can do it. Hopefully, some without the shame. So I want to drive home and just remind this point about reparenting, because really what we're doing in these practices, the original place where we learned these practices, right? Brush your teeth, put your shoes away, pick up your clothes, whatever it was, we learned it from our parents. And so whatever stuff they had going on, and whatever stuff they had going on in with you, and how you're just a reflection of their parenting, they put on you. You got all their habits. You got the way that they motivate themselves, or the way that they feel like they have to motivate you because you're a reflection of their parenting. Okay. So some of the things in that, and because that's the case, we didn't learn certain things because our parents didn't know everything. They just didn't. No parent knows everything. So there are certain things that we didn't learn. And there are certain things that we learned that would need to be unlearned, right? So some of these are like holes. We need more resources, more knowledge. And some of it is literally bad habit. And some of that is up here. A lot of that is up here. And so this, I want to have us see it as reparenting. This whole process of planning our self-care, of getting ourselves there to do it, of how we're talking to ourselves as we're doing it, and how we talk to ourselves after we do it or don't do it. All of these things are parenting, but now we're parenting ourselves. So if there's reparenting that needs to be done, when I say reparenting, I mean doing it differently. Just like in that journal, where that advocate in the journal who's compassionate and kind and like an encouraging coach who forgives you, totally forgives you when you don't do it perfectly. They still love you. It's unconditional love. And so thinking of it as like a parenting, you're parenting yourself. When you're figuring out how to get a self-care set of self-care practices in, you're parenting yourself. So this is a good time to ask questions because we're kind of wrapping things up. So as you're thinking about that, we're going to do one more quick writing activity, and hopefully it's already clear to you after we talked about all that we've talked about, but you're going to set an intention, perhaps for that problem, that real difficult practice, like working out or whatever it is. So you're going to set an intention that's sustainable. Okay. And when I say sustainable, I mean, it feels like you can get it into your life right now. It's not going to be hell. It's small. It's a small shift. And again, when we look at that spiral, if you're already pretty high on that spiral, that might mean that you can do a lot of things. Or if this week or right now in your life, you're kind of low on the spiral, you make it very small. I used to do this practice. There's this cool little program online. It's called Daily Challenge, and now they have like an app for your phone. It's called Daily Challenge, or like Daily Reminder or something like that. And it's one thing each day. It's small. It's super small. It's like get down on the floor and get in, put your feet together and stretch out your hips. That's it. Like 30 seconds. That's it. And it's so amazing. And you go through it, you do a small thing each day, and it builds this like pretty puzzle. And then you get all these, points, and you can do social media. There's ways that you can interact and encourage each other on there. If we're down, and that was when I was in that, I was down in a very tight part of that spiral where I wasn't expanded. I wasn't extended. I wasn't able to. And so it was one small thing every day. That's it. So if that's where you are, that's the intention that you want to set here. So write it down and then plan it out. Where does it fit? Like actually look at where it fits. Literally, like Wednesday at 5 p.m. or before I go to work or on my lunch break or each before and after each class, whatever. So set that intention now so you're leaving here with some kind of a plan. Small. It should be small. When you think about it, it shouldn't feel stressful. Okay, so I got this question. I'm going to see if I understand it. I'm having trouble focusing on reparenting as the child and not how I should be parenting my kid. I think I understand. The thing is that you are different than your kid. There are probably a lot of similarities, let's be frank, but you are a different person than your kid. You had a different upbringing, so you need a different style of parenting. Every single human being actually needs a different style of parenting. And if you have more than one kid, you know that, because your 2 kids or 3 kids, however many kids you have, they're different. They need a different style of being motivated. And so this is you what you need and paying enough attention to how you work, where your wounds are, where your sensitivities are, what has you really feel encouraged. It takes a lot of attention, just like you put on your own kid to figure out what they need. You put attention on you and figure out what you need. So I think that answers, I think that I'm understanding the question. Was that what you meant? Okay, yeah. And I know you're going to continue coming in, and we'll continue having this conversation. You'll be at future events. So we will deepen this and continue asking me questions. By the way, everyone here tonight and anyone who gets this webinar and any of the webinars along the way can be included in a private Facebook group where all we do is discuss this stuff. It's just like nerdy self-help group. And so I'll connect with each of you individually, and you can be added to that if you want to be. So this will be an ongoing conversation for the next 10 months. So with that, I will be sending out, once I get this recording, I'll be sending it out to you. And as a reminder, in a couple weeks, our next event on this topic is going to be in a couple weeks. It's going to be on Sunday, the 25th. We're going to be doing a workshop. Let me see if I have it really quick. I'm sorry. I know I'm a little bit over. Oh, I don't think I do have it. No, I don't. Okay. So Sunday the 25th of February, we're going to be meeting. We're going to be having a 4-hour workshop to go deeper into this and talk more about the reparenting and what's actually coming up as we work on this. So let me know if you're interested in that, if you're not already signed up. And besides that, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for participating in this. It's recorded, so it's really important to me, and it means a lot that you're here. So thank you all. Thank you for doing this for yourselves and all the people that you come in contact with every day. So have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-byes. Hmm.